right. We have a lot of people in the room, and we have a lot of empty seats up front. We would really like everyone who is in the back to try to move up front closer to fill in all of the empty seats at the front of the room. Kaelynn likes seeing faces. And so if you could please move to the front of the room and fill in the empty spaces, that would be greatly appreciated. Minute to get to seats. Those of you who are just entering the room, please sit in seats to the front of the stage area, not at the back. We appreciate that. And we're excited. There's so many people in here. This is going to be really fun. All right, I'm going to pass it off to Kaelynn. Let's go.
I feel like I'm probably supposed to say good morning to everybody, but I am not a morning person. So I'll say it if it makes you feel better, but I'm really not a morning person. So good morning, everybody. We'll get started. My story begins with a mother. Everyone's story begins with a mother, and mine is certainly no exception. In the very beginning, my mother knew something was different about me. My world was too loud, too fast, too confusing, and we didn't have the words to explain it. Entering school, it didn't take long for me to start drowning, both academically and socially, unable to keep up with demands. As the gaps between me and my peers grew, so did my awareness of them. Why can't I just like what they like and do what they do? Why won't the other kids go bird watching? Why am I so stupid? At the ripe old age of 9, during challenging moments, I questioned, would life ever get any better? My mom raised concerns about autism with the doctors, but this was the early 2000s, so I like to joke that the doctors must have believed at the time that girls couldn't catch autism. So I slipped through the cracks until 2007, when my uncle paid for extensive academic and psychological testing in Orlando. My expression in that picture is reflective of the fact that prior to exploring Disney with my family, I had to play with the nice ladies for a couple of days. It was at this time that I received a diagnosis of autism and more learning disabilities than I could count. You see what I did there?
I think when I was little, my perception of myself was that I was stupid. It meant I was stupid, and even if I didn't have a name for it, I felt stupid because I was failing the 3rd grade, and how do you fail the 3rd grade and have a good self-esteem, you know? You kind of can't do those two things at the same time. And so when I got assessed, it was pretty disappointing, I think, on everybody's behalf that we got autism, we got ADHD, we got dyslexia, we got dyscalculia, we got dysgraphia, dyspraxia. You know, getting diagnosed, it kind of put a word to it. So instead of stupid, I was dyslexic, which helped a little, not a lot, but a little. What personal strength are you most reluctant to acknowledge, and how has it impacted your life? When you get diagnosed with multiple disabilities, you don't get the luxury of ignoring your personal weaknesses, and also you really cling to your personal strengths. And so when you spend a large portion of your childhood unsuccessful in academic environments, you come to the conclusion that I can't do this. And I have evidence to support why I can't do this, because every time I've tried, it's failed, and I can pull out all the paperwork that says that I have. But when I started with Project Hope, they gave me tasks and activities that I could be successful with. I saw areas in my life in which I was successful and without a whole lot of help. And it's really kind of empowered me to take advantage of other opportunities I've been offered as a result of that.
I was 13 years old when I joined Project Hope's small private school for kids on the autism spectrum. Project Hope saw my individual needs and strengths, and so they built an internship just for me, helping the teachers with the younger students while I worked on my own goals. After graduating, I became certified as a registered behavior technician, and I've been on staff with Project Hope since 2015. I've worked with clients as young as 3 and as old as 20. My clinical experience is wide, ranging from teaching individuals who use a device to communicate, to providing community, home, and clinical support for clients with extensive histories of dangerous behavior, to working on higher level social and executive functioning skills at an adult level. In 2022, as you know, I got the opportunity to participate in the Netflix series Love on the Spectrum. That experience opened several doors for me, but unfortunately, none of those doors had a boyfriend behind them. That said, one of those open doors led to the expansion, really the explosion of my social media. Before Netflix, I had a decent following on my Facebook page. After Netflix, I realized people were listening, and in my view, that came with responsibility. My unusual blend of personal experience and clinical work gave me a voice that could reach people who might otherwise never learn about autism. My entire social media presence is dedicated to dispensing the most authentic autism and behavior analytic information any single individual could hope to portray. Maybe you have a great deal of experience working with folks on the spectrum, or maybe this is something you're just beginning to learn about. Regardless of your level of knowledge, as I'll explain in this video, my hope is to offer a few pieces of new information, or at least a new way of looking at something.
Professional development is supposed to be like trying on clothes. You go into the fitting room with a bunch of ideas and strategies, and the goal is to be open to trying on each of them. In the end, only you can decide which ones fit your unique circumstances.
Nothing in this world is meant for me.
Not meant for you.
Clothes are not meant for me. I'm joining a nudist colony.
There are times we try stuff on and get excited because it's exactly what we needed. And there are times when trying on pants makes you realize what you actually needed was a hat.
All that to say, lots of you will be familiar with the concepts I'm going to share. My hope is to provide you with additional perspective on the why from my place on the bridge between the worlds of autistic people and autism professionals. My other hope is that you'll take notes or pictures of the slides because I move quickly and you have a lot of ideas to try on. An autism diagnosis requires deficits in social communication. It's estimated that 40% of people on the autism spectrum are non-speaking. Among the remaining 60%, many of us still have challenges using language in social situations, like knowing what to say or when to say it. Even those of us who have strong language abilities tend to need communication to be direct and concise. I can tell you from personal experience that direct communication builds trust. My most trustworthy relationships do not require me to pick up on implied meanings, indirect requests, or the not-so-mutual understanding of social customs. Autistic individuals often struggle with answering broad, open-ended questions. After Love on the Spectrum aired on Netflix, I was getting several interview requests every month. Almost every time, I got the question, what was it like to be on the show? My mind flooded with the millions of ways to respond to that question. What was it like to deal with the filming equipment? To go on a date? To interact with the public? I was motivated to answer the questions correctly, even if it was just a matter of opinion. I was hypersensitive to any modifiers the interviewers might include. For example, if the interviewer asked, what was your experience like preparing to be filmed? I would say that the preparation was incredibly stressful. We had to clean the house extensively, take measures for COVID, buy new date outfits, and coordinate the appointments to suit the schedules of multiple people. But if they had asked, what was your experience with filming like? I would say that the filming was a bit intimidating at first, but the intimidation quickly faded because of how kind the film crew was. Focusing on those specific modifiers could be paralyzing because I didn't want to answer the wrong question.
Today over ice cream, an acquaintance asked me what my cult experience was like. Turns out he was asking about the church I grew up in. Because of the autism, my brain defaults to thinking in extremes. It takes conscious effort for me to see gray areas. He asked about my cult experience, but I didn't have one of those. So I told him the truth, which was that my church experience was alright, but that didn't feel like the right answer. So my brain decided now would be a great time to share that embarrassing story about my purity ring in youth group. We all had purity rings to signify that we were not going to be intimate with anybody before marriage. My dad came for visitation the weekend after I got my purity ring, and he took us to some woods vacation for a while. Well, I lost my purity ring in the cabin. So when I came back to church the following week, they were like, Kaelynn, why don't you have your purity ring? We just got them 2 weeks ago. And I was like, oh yeah, I lost it in the woods with my father. But I didn't see at the time how that might be taken. And not because it was an overall reflection of my church experience, but because that answer seemed to best fit into his question. For language-abled autistic people like me, our brains can be paralyzed by broad questions because they aren't specific enough, or our brains can fit in extreme components of experiences to better fit those questions.
I'm fortunate to have the language skills to say, can you be more specific? But many others on the spectrum do not have that ability. Your best chance at mutual understanding is to be direct in your communication. This video contains several examples of what direct communication can sound like.
This one habit will permanently improve your communication with autistic people who need clarity. Did you watch them die, or did somebody call you after? How does that work?
Kaelynn!
I'm just saying, if he was old, weren't you kind of expecting it?
Read the room! Wrong! I mean, people are getting quiet and uncomfortable in here. Let's change the subject.
Many autistic folks process language very literally. On the flip side, many non-autistic folks struggle with how to be direct.
Alright. Excuse me, Kaelynn. Hey. Excuse me. Not like that.
To bridge this communication gap, just state the goal of your message and also include verbs.
Hey. Move over there. Sit on the wall right there. Thank you.
But there are other dog breeds that are still called liver, just not Labradors. For example, flat-coated retrievers, they also come in a liver color as well.
Very interesting.
In the 1800s, they used to be called liver Labradors.
Nope. I actually do need to respond to a few emails right now, so I do need to be done talking.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Got a lot of options right here. We got Velveeta cheese, we've got Fritos, or Ruffles, or Cheetos. Do you like macaroni? I know that you like fruit cups, macaroni, and Pop-Tarts. Pick one. Oh, hey, Kaelynn, hey, that's gross. Kaelynn, don't do that. So close. Kaelynn, hands out. Walk to the bathroom.
What is that smell? That's disgusting.
Take out the trash!
Hey, that's disrespectful. Don't talk to me like that. That's pretty rude. Let's do it over. If you need me to do something, don't give a command, ask a question.
While many autistic individuals need direct communication to be explicit, they may also use a direct style when speaking to others. They can be quick to correct other people's mistakes, point out things they shouldn't, or state how they feel about something at the worst possible time. I'm going to pause here and reassure you that I did not fly all the way over here to say, autistic kids are rude sometimes, suck it up. I would, however, invite you to be open to the idea that bluntness often highlights problem areas immediately. It shows you exactly where the confusion or barrier is. But as promised, I am not a radical acceptance type of advocate. Students can and should be taught how different wording can be received by others. When your student says something off-putting that you've got to address, there's two options. One, get them what they need, move on, pull them aside, and talk to them about it later. Two, demonstrate what they should have said and move on. As you know, if something is a recurring and significantly disruptive issue, then it'll require more than just redirection. But before those passive and seemingly spontaneous remarks, as someone who still struggles to soften my tone, I want you to know that blunt communication is often a reflection of how autistic brains process information. It is not a reflection of their respect for you.
Me and Kaelynn went to this great Mexican restaurant in town.
We did not go to Mexican.
We did go to Mexican.
No, that place is literally not Mexican. That is Tex-Mex, not traditional Mexican. It's not the same thing.
I mean, okay, girl.
You know that, actually thing autistic folks are sometimes known for? It can feel like they want the last word, but it's actually actually a need for precision. Most non-autistic people build a hierarchy of information that looks like this. Generally speaking, the conclusion or the main point is what matters most, and some details could be skipped or altered. For autistic people, our information hierarchy might look like this. The most important is exact details, then order of events, and then the main point.
Kaelynn, this is Jonathan. Me and Kaelynn went to school together.
What? No, we didn't.
We went to school, to the same place.
Yeah, but not together.
For many of us, trying to correct small details is a way of stabilizing information so that it feels usable to our brains.
Check this out. My mom just got the cutest poodle. I
What?
cannot wait to go
That
play with
is
it.
not, that's kind of misleading to call it a poodle.
That said, it's frustrating to be on the receiving end of correction, so here's the middle ground. When you hear something that's not quite right, wait for a pause and then say, I think what you meant was blank. Did I get that right? Or, can I add a detail that feels important? And if you're on the receiving end of a correction, you could try something like this.
I get that that little detail is important to you, but let me finish my story first, please.
Or,
Thank you for clarifying, but can we please keep it moving? I cannot lose my train of thought.
Understanding the why behind blunt communication is important. But just because we understand doesn't mean we allow rude commentary, especially if it's disruptive. Learning how language affects people is a part of growing up. Shifting gears a little bit, the last thought I want to share on the topic of communication is this. If communication doesn't work, it goes away. Lots of goals focus on getting learners to use more words, and generally that's helpful. However, if a student has to find the right words, use a full sentence, say it politely, say it at the right volume, and pronounce it perfectly just to get a basic need met, that's too much effort. This next clip shows what can happen when a communication goal becomes too challenging.
the lesson you're trying to teach might not be the same lesson your autistic student actually learns.
You have autism, pretend you're 9 years old, and I am your therapist.
Duh.
Hey, you didn't get my attention, so you can say, excuse me, Mr. John. Me. Can I
Can't I
have a donut? Donut. At her age, she needs to use full sentences. No one's going to understand single words.
He understood exactly what I wanted. Why did he make it extra hard?
Whoa, Kaelynn! Hey, you can't get up there. Look. You gotta ask for that.
I can never say all those words, so I just got it myself.
The lesson that I'm trying to teach is that her communication matters. So, let's try that again. Here's a paper towel for you.
Duh.
Oh, looks like you want donuts.
Duh.
Yeah, you want a donut. Respond to their effort and then model the next step.
If you want someone to do something,
Make it easy.
If you want someone to do something, make it easy. Sometimes just modeling the proper communication without expecting the student to do the extra work can go a long way. Communication has to work reliably, quickly, and consistently before it can be refined. I frequently describe my brain as a digital calendar with notifications on overdrive. These notifications remind me to mentally prepare for my next activities so that I'm prepared for what's coming up. This isn't something I consciously set out to do. This is something my brain does in the background all the time. So when an abrupt change occurs in my plan without any notice, I find my previously established mental images crashing down. I've constructed such a detailed mental picture of what I was expecting that I find it hard to readjust. Many of us experience the feeling of loss of control in response to a change. That can set the stage for disruptive or even dangerous behaviors in an attempt to regain this control. This is where the power of choice comes in. Giving people choices, even if they seem small, can return the feeling of control and help them navigate their responses.
Ian has been working on making coffee as a part of his vocational training. This is his favorite task because he always makes some for himself at the end of the work period.
Hey Ian, I just want to give you a heads up that we're out of coffee today, so you'll need to pick something different. I can see that's frustrating for you. I know how much you like doing coffee. Running out of coffee was unexpected, okay? So today our options are going to be to restock our snacks or take inventory. We can make sure coffee's on our list for the next time we go to the store, okay? All right, take some time, think about your options, and let me know when you're ready to make a choice. All right, I'm here if you need any help. What did you pick? Do you want to do inventory or restock the snacks?
Restock the snacks.
Okay.
Ian may need some time to make an alternative choice. After he clearly understands the options, it's best to give him some space to process them. Restating the options or negotiating the coffee issue may increase his frustration. Validate the frustration, offer choices, and wait.
You might be surprised that many autistic people perceive an unexpected change as being told no to something they want. Many of us have specific mental images of how a situation or event will take place. Sometimes those expectations in our heads can be unreasonable, impossible, and uncommunicated. Personally, this is an issue I frequently deal with surrounding weekend plans. I've got an image in my head of where I want to go, who will come with me, and what we'll do. Unfortunately, I sometimes forget to loop those other people into the plan, so when they're unavailable or circumstances change, it really bothers me. Hearing no can result in a shattered mental image. When I work with clients who show signs of being upset as the result of a request that cannot be granted, I'll give an empathy statement to show that I understand what they want and how they feel. This could sound like, I know you really wanted the thing, and I'm really sorry. Next, I'll tell them when their request could be granted. If you think about it, when we're told no, it doesn't mean never. Most no's just mean not right now. Saying something like, that would be a great idea for when the sun is out, tells the person under which conditions the request could be granted. I will often provide a visual to confirm that I understand the request and plan to help them follow up on it at another time. This could be as simple as writing down the request for them to see or taking a picture of the activity they wanted. Last, I'll remind them of what the current available options are to support them in making an alternative choice. This could sound like, right now we could read a book or play in the backyard. This may require some patience on your part. You might need to give them time to process their disappointment, knowing it might be packaged in the form of anger. When we think about how powerful routine can be, it's easy to see why change can feel overwhelming. But not all change is unexpected. In schools, therapy, or home routines, we often plan transitions, moving from one task to another. The next thing I want to talk about is how we can make those planned transitions feel a little easier. Contrary to popular belief, struggling or even refusing to move between tasks, even when it is planned, is not evidence of someone choosing to be obstinate. To understand why, you need to appreciate that the switch between tasks is not a simple shift for many folks. If you are not neurodivergent, the mental process of switching tasks occurs in the background automatically. But even for those of us with conditions that impact cognition, moving between activities is a process that happens manually. Task switching requires skills like stopping one thought pattern, starting another, and adjusting the body accordingly.
If you are not autistic, ADHD, or whatever else, congratulations. Your brain works a lot like a pond, and all of your daily activities are a lot like lily pads. And they float close together like this on the surface. So for example, since the Shores and Hobbies lily pads are side by side, once you finish your Lego set, you can easily hop over to doing the dishes without falling in the water. Unfortunately, if you are neurodivergent, your brain is like a lake, not a pond. Stay with me. In lake brains, the lily pads are further apart, meaning that if you'd like to switch tasks, you have to cover more cognitive surface area. You gotta notice when you're done or are needing to be done. You need to mentally detach from the thoughts, momentum, and sensory input from the last task. You need to identify what's next and what it requires, and then you need to actually get your body to initiate the process. Each of those steps takes a lot of mental energy. Planning, redirecting attention, stopping one thought process, and starting another. For neurotypical people, a lot of those steps happen in the background automatically. But when you have a lake brain, trying to switch tasks feels like mentally fighting to keep your head above water. I wish I had a magic solution, but my point in highlighting this cognitive difference is so that you'll give yourself and the neurodivergent people in your life just a little bit more patience.
I hope it's helpful to understand the why behind transition struggles. That said, I care about providing actionable strategies whenever possible, so this next clip might help you aid students in bridging the distance between those lake lily pads. Here are 3 actionable strategies that, in my view, are underutilized.
If moving from one activity to the next ends in a meltdown for your autistic person, here are a few strategies you probably haven't heard of. So we have to go do our lunchtime dishes right now. Look, I got you your beads. You can wear them, you could shake them. We've got to go clean up those dishes from lunch. Here you go. I know, those are so fun. Walk with me. It looks like bribery, but it's actually continuity. Pulling out something special to hold when it's time to move can be anchoring because it bridges the two worlds, the task you're leaving and the task you're entering. All right, friend, I think your mom is gonna be here. We have to go inside and get your backpack.
Outside.
I hear you. You love outside.
I want to stay outside.
I know it. I hear you. Look.
go get your backpack.
Outside.
I know. Walk with me.
A favorite song or video can act as a soundtrack. It softens the mental leap between point A and point B.
Just so you know, up next on our schedule is ball and then homework, okay?
I hate homework.
I know.
Stupid.
Homework is tough, you're right.
I don't even have a pencil.
All right, 3, 2, 1, stop, we're here, look! All right, let's play ball, come on!
We actually didn't need to play ball, but including a neutral activity in between your favorite thing and your least favorite thing feels like walking down a set of stairs, as opposed to just being pushed off a ledge. As someone diagnosed autistic in 2007, you're gonna have to trust me when I say that for us, switching tasks can feel like crossing over from one world into a completely different one. The strategies I just showed can act like a bridge, giving us something steady to hold on to while the brain catches up.
These are just ideas to try when a student struggles with moving from one activity to the next. Not every kid will need this level of support. If transitions are hard, as a recap, you can try offering them an item they like so they have something to carry with them, playing music when it's time to move, or adding a medium activity in between something they love, like recess, and something they hate, like math. If you want to take a picture, I'll pause here for a second. I define a meltdown as an emotional or behavioral response to an overwhelming situation or event. Generally, when a meltdown occurs, it indicates that the demands or expectations of a situation exceed the person's current level of ability.
Feeling intense emotions can make even the most basic communication more difficult. When I'm extremely upset, I feel like a sinking boat taking on water. All of my resources or coping skills are on top of the water. They're my oxygen. As my boat begins to sink, it compromises my ability to access the oxygen, making me act frantically to maintain control. If the boat takes on too much water, I am too upset. I can no longer reach my coping skills. I cannot reach the oxygen. I have to wait until I'm able to calm down or swim back up to the top before I can communicate properly or problem solve in a constructive manner. As my boat goes down, one thing I've learned to do is reach for a paper or a keyboard. I've found this to be a constructive way of expressing my feelings. Whether those feelings are just for my eyes to read or if they're shared with others, writing is a better way for me to communicate. People in my life can attest to the fact that this is a strategy I use sometimes to resolve conflict when my emotions run too high. Interestingly, the flip side is also true for me. All of my most thoughtful expressions of admiration, appreciation, and sympathy come in a written format. Even for autistic people who have fluent language abilities, providing alternative forms of communication can be really helpful in certain circumstances.
As human beings, we each have different amounts of tolerance for certain issues. For example, some of us can perform really well under pressure. Having an important deadline or being observed by a group can motivate us to concentrate or work harder. Personally, my tolerance for working under pressure is pretty high. Most of the time, I'm able to push through things, even if I'm feeling sad, tired, or hungry. And when a challenge arises, I have a fairly robust skill set I can use for problem solving. I know how to ask others for help. I can take a break when I need one. I can switch tasks if I get tired of the one I'm working on, and I could wait until someone's available to help me. A few years ago, I went to Chicago to speak to a school about autism. I added a few days to that trip for sightseeing. Remember that robust skill set I mentioned having? I used every ounce of it to rent a car, navigate the city, plan meals and activities, deal with traffic, and manage my time effectively. I got it! Did it! Look at me, being an adult. Driving in a parking garage, renting a car, not running over pedestrians. It's the most adult thing I think I've ever done. That trip was fun, but arguably one of the more difficult adult experiences I've had to date. In terms of tolerating stressors, I was really doing the most. We got lost on the way back to the airport, we didn't have enough time for lunch, and were unable to get a souvenir, which used up the remainder of my tolerance. When I boarded the plane and realized I didn't get a window seat, despite intentionally booking one, my tolerance level was at a 0. While that robust skill repertoire for problem solving includes asking for others for help when a situation arises, I do need at least a little bit of tolerance left in order to access that repertoire. As a result of having used up the last of the tolerance on the previous 48 hours on all of the nonsense that goes with travel, profanities came flying out of my mouth, and my fist went flying into my face. Thanks to my travel companion, the window seat problem was easily solved by politely asking to switch seats with a kind stranger. This is certainly a problem I knew how to solve in isolation, but when combined with my stress tolerance being at a new all-time low, I skipped over that part completely and instead went straight to a meltdown. I've observed similar challenges in some of the clients I've worked with. A while back, I was working with a 10-year-old girl who had developmentally appropriate language abilities, but extreme social and executive skill functioning deficits. After a particularly long and challenging day of dealing with the drama that are fourth-grade girls, my client had also reached a place of no more tolerance. When a classmate insisted on playing with the most fun toy in the whole school by herself, my little friend could not contain her outrage. Instead of asking an adult for help, attempting to negotiate with the classmate, or choosing something else to do, my client opted for trying to rip the toy away from the other girl, while screaming at her all the reasons why she was the meanest kid in the universe. Surprised at the situation, I de-escalated the conflict and invited my client to take a walk with me. As I asked about what got her to that point when she knew other ways to solve the problem, she explained how tough her day had been before I got there. Like me, my little friend felt badly about how she reacted in the moment when she had other tools she could have used instead. Having a lower than usual tolerance for stressors doesn't excuse inappropriate behavior, but it does explain it. This explanation is not meant to serve as a way to avoid consequences or responsibility. Rather, this explanation allows us to move forward, make amends, and better plan for the future. With all that in mind, let's talk about what to do when a meltdown does happen. We need to be aware of triggers and contributing factors so that we can make adjustments before a meltdown happens. Before is important because once you've reached a meltdown state, you have lost your teaching opportunity. We can't attempt to teach someone emotional regulation or problem-solving skills when they're upset. They won't hear you, and they're extremely unlikely to retain the information. When someone is extremely upset, the number one objective must be to help them return to their baseline of calm. Acknowledging someone's big feelings can help them feel heard. Generally, when people feel heard and understood, they're less likely to engage in additional challenging behaviors.
My turn.
I have it.
Uno.
No! You said this would be fun.
It's
It's
not.
not.
You're fine.
It's not. It's not.
You are
no.
fine.
Fine is what I would be if I wasn't the biggest loser in the world.
Not a big deal.
That's it.
I'm right. It wasn't a big deal. But here's why saying that to an autistic person makes things worse. Escalation can happen if the person thinks you don't understand, so the brain turns up the volume.
Miss Kaelynn, I need the blue paint.
I already told you, we're out of blue. You can use
No,
pink.
I need blue for my rainbow.
We don't have blue. I already answered that. Sorry.
No.
Because autistic people experience heightened emotions, the brain might intensify the reaction in a desperate attempt to align your understanding with their experience. So if you want to support faster recovery, try this.
I have Uno.
Uno.
Nice.
No.
You did not expect
No.
that. You were
No.
so close.
It was my turn to win.
It was your turn, I know.
She
You win
won
a lot.
last
I know.
time.
Come on, Fred. Hey, let's go take
No.
a walk. Come on, we'll
Ugh.
come back. We'll clean up later.
I don't
Come on. Feeling heard doesn't erase disappointment, but it often prevents it from growing into something unsafe, like self-injury or aggression. You don't have to fix the problem. You just have to show that you're on their side. One of the core features of autism is a preference for sameness and difficulty with change. This often shows up in what we call rigid thinking, when a student insists on doing things a certain way, following specific routines, or struggling to adapt when something unexpected happens. Here's an example of how rigidity sometimes shows up in my life.
Can we go to Starbucks?
No,
Why not?
it's on the other side of the exit.
Why can't we pass the exit?
I'm going south.
Would it hurt anything?
It would, yeah, me.
Where are we going first?
To the bottom. And then we'll go to the top. That's how south and north works. Plan's been made, itinerary's been set. Nothing I can do about it now.
Generally, sticking to specific weekend plans isn't a major disruption to daily functioning. However, this kind of thinking can sometimes cause bigger problems when the stakes are higher. Many autistic people are known for being rule followers. Sometimes that means we're strict about adhering to expected rules. Other times it means we attach to rigid rules that we've made up for ourselves. As you can imagine, both of those things can create challenges. The first step in managing this is teaching kids to communicate the need to follow the rule.
For a bunch of reasons, you could Google autistic people are known for being strict rule followers. Here's what most people think that looks like. Break's over.
How long has this mayonnaise been out?
Since lunchtime.
Lunchtime? It's been like 2 hours.
Okay, we're just backing up for a minute.
Oh, safety first.
We gotta wash
No,
this.
no, I need to wear it.
It's been weeks.
Wear it.
We've got
Wear
to wash it.
No, no wash, no
We've
wash.
Hey, look, I'm just gonna move him right over here.
If you're struggling with rigidity like that, two things. One, ask if it's a rule someone else made or if it's one that you've made for yourself.
High five.
Bye. And two, if you're stuck on your own rule, let someone else around you know what's happening.
High five.
High fives are for family.
Okay.
ya.
Have a good day.
In a world that feels chaotic and unpredictable, sometimes autistic brains create rules to help us make sense of things. While it can feel grounding to have a set of rules, speaking from experience, those rules are notorious for causing extra problems. Helping kids work through flexibility goals is an individualized process. While I can't tell you how to keep rigidity from happening, I can give you a few general strategies to move past it when situations do come up.
Here are 4 practical, in-the-moment ways to support someone with autistic rigidity.
Here you go. Got you an apple for you.
Oh no, it's broken!
There you go.
Oh no, cut, no! Fix it!
Did you want this apple, or we could have some crackers?
Crackers? No.
Sounds like you want to cut a different way. We do have some of our strategies. You want to take a walk, pick something else, swing? Okay. Come on, Kaelynn, let's go swing.
Oh, it's broken!
I know you're going to want to play Uno, but first, check it out. I'm going to set us a 3-minute timer for Candyland, and then Uno.
Because I'm changing my name to a brand new, different name.
Hey, Kaelynn, I just got a notification. We have a fire drill right now. So let's go ahead and head out.
What? But it's 2 o'clock. We actually have art class. I'm gonna put this away and I'm gonna go to art, okay?
I hear you. It sounds like you really want to go to art. I also had art on my schedule
Oh,
for 2
it's time
o'clock
for
today.
art.
I know. So first we can do the fire drill, and then we'll go to art class. All right? Do you want to leave your book or bring it with us?
I'll leave it.
Okay. Well, first let's go knock it out, and then we'll go to art class.
Okay.
To support in the moment, acknowledge feelings, use visuals to help people process information, offer choices, and if you know about a change ahead of time, give a warning.
Remember, I said these strategies are practical, not magical, which might mean you need to give somebody time to process their emotions before they're ready to be supported.
Due to the nature of autism, people will often adhere to activities even when they become less interesting. For example, I've worked with many clients who request the same game every day, not for the love of the game, but rather for the sake of routine. In some individuals, this can eventually cause boredom. In order to overcome this, a person would have to recognize their feeling dissatisfied by doing the same thing over and over. Next, they would have to communicate this feeling to someone else. And last, they would need to demonstrate the motivation for a brand new activity. All of these things can take a high level of skill that's often out of reach for many on the spectrum. Furthermore, when a novel activity is suggested, many autistic folks will reject it. The good news is that you can help proactively. If the learner seems bored by their current options, or if you think it would be enjoyable to try something new, here's a strategy I often use.
All right, look what I brought. I brought bowling for you.
I don't like it. Hey, try new things.
I know, it feels new. Usually we say we don't like something after we try it. You haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, but I don't think I like bowling.
The rule is we try something 3 times to know if it's a yes for you or if it's a no for you.
Okay, but I don't think I'm gonna like this.
Well, let's find out. You tried it. Nice work. All right, what do you want to do? You can pick next.
I wanna go to the gym
Let's
now.
go to the gym.
A few moments later.
All right, let's give bowling another try.
I still don't think I like bowling.
Well, remember, you've only tried it 1 time. We've got to try it 3 to know if it's a yes or a no. Hey, you tried it. Nice. All right, well, check it off. You tried it 2 times.
6.5 hours later.
Before we leave, let's give bowling one last try. This is our last try to figure it out for sure.
I don't think bowling's for me. Am I gonna have to do this again tomorrow?
We tried 3 times and you said bowling is a no for you. So you do not have to do it again tomorrow. Autistic people aren't always avoiding things because they hate them. They're avoiding the uncertainty. A little bit of structure or encouragement can help separate discomfort from genuine preference. Everyone deserves to find out what they do and don't like. Autistic people might just need a little bit of extra support in making those discoveries.
This might not be useful for all learners, but it's something to try when rigidity is holding them back. The last thing I'd like to talk about is if you only take one piece of information away from this conversation, let it be this. No matter who you are, with coworkers, with family, students, or friends, a sad but almost universal truth is that most people don't use the curiosity part of their brain when someone does something difficult or unusual. Most people stop at what something seems like. If it seemed weird, it was weird. If someone seems quiet, we assume they don't want to talk. If someone seems overly confident, we assume they're arrogant. And let's be honest, sometimes unusual interactions are the price of admission for inclusion. However, these 3 words can permanently alter the way you react to unusual interactions. And those 3 words are, I wonder why. When, not if, something happens that strikes you as a bit odd or difficult, asking, I wonder why, gives space for possibility. They're always asking questions. I wonder why. They only use blue crayons. I wonder why. They scream when I ask them to wash their hands. I wonder why. The point of I wonder why is not to make excuses for someone else. It's to remind yourself that your first assumption might be wrong. By challenging your initial reaction, you prevent assumptions from breeding unnecessary conflict, and you build an environment that values curiosity over judgment. Assumptions end conversations. Curiosity starts them. You can hear more of my thoughts by scanning the code and following me on social media. Thank you for your time and attention. And I think we have time for Q&A, pretty sure.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much, Kaelynn. You explained so many things so clearly. I loved the videos. I thought it was very engaging and very insightful.
Thank you.
We do have some questions, but I want to remind everyone to get on your Whova app, and if you have questions, it's easiest if you go in there, fill out a question, and submit it so that we can make sure that we have a smooth process for that. Okay, so the first question I have is, I'm looking at all the ways I can assist students and parents as a school social worker. Prior to this school year, I only had experience with high-functioning autism, level 1. Many students I have now are level 3 and many nonverbal. Do you have any realistic tips for helping them?
I'm trying to think how to say this nicely. You kind of have to mess around and find out. There's very little that can replace real world experience and learning from hands-on. You're going to make errors, that's going to happen, and that's how you learn best. I would say pay attention to reactions. For those individuals who are more language challenged, looking for specific reactions. So they're not gonna say, oh man, you're the best teacher ever. I really loved when you did X, Y, and Z. That's probably not gonna happen. Looking for indications of happiness, smiling. Do they prefer to sit next to you? Do they choose to spend time with you? Those are indications that you're probably doing a good job, so look for those kind of subtle signs that they're appreciating your work and do more of whatever that was that led them to do that.
Thank you so much. Another question is, do you ever notice that providing 2 options often leads autistic individuals to pick the second option consistently? Sorry, it moved away.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty common thing. Sometimes people will say, would you like A or B? Would you like B or A? And sometimes that's effective and sometimes not. If the person can read, I think it's helpful to sometimes write the options and say pick one. That way they're not able to echo off the choice.
Okay. Another one we have is, how would you recommend getting a 4-year-old nonverbal child to communicate more or communicate differently?
Modeling is really helpful. So previously when I had talked about kind of demonstrating without an expectation, oh, you want donuts, here's the donut. You can pause for them to say it. Give 5 seconds. If they don't say it, it's all right, try again later. With 4-year-olds, I mean, there's so many opportunities. You can do a lot of demonstration, and I think it's fair to expect a response here and there, but modeling without expectation is something you can do all the time.
Great. Okay, so a lot of people have been liking this question. Some educators may think visual schedules aren't, quote unquote, age appropriate. What would you say to them, and how have schedules continued to help you in your adult life?
To those educators, I would ask, do you use a calendar? Do you use your notes app? If the answer is yes, that's an insane thing to say. I probably should have put that a little lightly, but I'm sorry, I feel strongly about that. If you don't use a calendar, then maybe that's a reasonable thing to say, but I think every one of us uses a calendar, so.
And it might start off looking a little different, right? But that might be a natural support that we transition to as students get older.
Perhaps, yeah. I think it's about what meets the needs of the person rather than what's more aesthetically pleasing to us. But I see your point, yeah.
Yeah, the tool's meant to serve the person using it, and if that's what works, that's what works.
Yeah.
Here's a kind of fun question. What is your favorite fidget right now?
Ooh, I got a lot right now. Right now, what I currently have is a Neato cube, which I've been told are sold out in some places, and also the like little ouchies, 3D printed like spiky ones. Those are pretty cool too.
Trying to see image slides. See, it keeps jumping around. Yeah. Sorry, just trying to make sure I find the.
People are adding questions
And it keeps like
jumps around.
Yep. This one? Excellent. Okay, I'm a parent. This is the question. I'm a parent to a 3-year-old neurodivergent toddler. Do you have any tips on how we can travel easier with our son? We generally love to travel and have families abroad to visit, but we have been discouraged to do so because of how difficult it is to travel with him.
Yeah, traveling can definitely be difficult, but if it is at all possible, I definitely recommend pushing that. It gives a lot of experience and a lot of exposure, and if the family is able to and has the resources to push for this to be important, I would definitely back them on that. In terms of making it easier, I know people have used visual schedules, people have taken like videos. I've got a friend who is going to fly with her little boy pretty soon, and she's been taking videos of the airport and the airplane and the bathrooms and all the things he's going to encounter so she can take it home and say, look, this is the airport and this is the airplane, describe the rules. And for some people, that's been really helpful.
Okay. Bouncing around so much I can't keep up. Tangibles, age appropriate. What is one way a meltdown can be anticipated and dealt with at the time, if not before?
A lot of times we describe, I don't know if you're familiar with this, depending on your crisis intervention training, this may be a familiar concept for you, the idea of an escalator or like a stair step. People don't typically go from 0 to 60 without any warning. It can happen, but it's pretty unusual. There's usually a flight of stairs they kind of metaphorically climb. So there might be rocking, there might be pacing, there might be whining, there might be vocal protest before it escalates into a meltdown. And so your time to intervene is when the whining starts. So if it starts with whining and then crying and then arguing and then meltdown, your time to intervene is right here at the whining before it has a chance to explode.
Excellent, thank you. I think this is kind of related, and you spoke to about transitions, but do you have any other tips for stopping physical aggression during transitions? Anything to add to your presentation?
I think crisis management is kind of beyond the scope of what I'm able to provide advice for. The tips I've provided specifically about transition would be what I would direct to.
Excellent, thank you. This one? Yeah? Okay. So do you have any tips for working with other certified staff members on our team who are autistic, navigating ways to facilitate work expectations for work? Often their autism inhibits them from properly servicing our students.
That's a tricky mindset. I've seen it. I've seen it before where I work at Project Hope. We've had a pretty significant influx of autistic RBTs. I think the broad statement of autism inhibits your work performance is probably not your best attitude going into it. I understand that it can be a prohibitive factor in some instances, but the caveat of some is really important here. If you're somebody who's looking for solutions, the caveat of sometimes autism can be prohibitive to workplace expectations is really important. I don't think it's a fair distinction to say, well, autistic people have a really hard time with this job. So that's note one. Note two would be just to validate that, yeah, sometimes that does happen. Sometimes it's not a good fit. Autistic people plus autistic people sometimes doesn't go well. Something I've noticed in my workplace is sometimes autistic individuals don't always understand the why behind some of the strategies that we recommend to use. So maybe they understand that we should shorten our language sometimes when we're speaking to individuals who have a lower ability to understand some of the things that we're saying, but then they don't understand why that strategy is helpful, and so they overgeneralize. So explaining the why behind certain things can be really helpful in the workplace in general, autism or not.
Thank you. So we've gotten a handful of questions about kind of the idea of age appropriate, either like physical stimming or things about like rewards or like transition aids of being seen as either age appropriate or not age appropriate by some educators. Do you have anything that can like speak to that kind of mindset? Like individualizing or something to that effect?
Something that comes up for us a lot is people say, well, you know, they won't have this support in the real world, and they won't have accommodations like this in the real world, and you know, when you're an adult, you can't like Barney, and when you're an adult, you can't like Teletubbies. But I would like to argue that for a lot of the students that we see who require a certain intensive level of support, these are individuals who, by all metrics, will never be alone at any point in their life. They will have a caregiver, they will have a respite worker, they will have someone to aid them in a group home situation, they will have a family member, some kind of paid caregiver to follow them throughout their life. I think it's kind of silly to envision that individuals who need a high level of support will magically graduate from it when they've turned 21, and just everything will just kind of come together and they'll magically adapt to the real world like the rest of us have. I think that's kind of a silly thing to imagine. And so if you can let go of that and understand that this is a person who is going to need some kind of paid support for the duration of their life, I think it makes it a little bit easier to let go of those age-appropriate expectations that come more from aesthetics and really your own personal feelings about the situation rather than the person's feelings about the situation.
Excellent, thank you. So do you find that social stories are helpful? And if so, do you find that real photographs are more helpful than like clip art of people?
Yeah, I conceptually love social stories, although I will say that research suggests that social stories alone are not an effective intervention. You need to have some sort of real-world consequence contingency to make it effective. So yes, use your social story, but then pair it with role play. Yes, use your social story, but pair it with some sort of consequence manipulation. There's got to be some sort of real-world tangible element to your teaching. So a social story alone is almost never sufficient. But I think they are a fantastic tool, that said.
And to follow up on that, do you think that some students might respond better to different levels of support? So some students might respond better to a digital photo or maybe an icon like a board maker or lesson picks icon. Do you think that's important?
Oh yeah, I think adapting the presentation of the material to what's going to fit the individual best is also important. And also using pictures that are reflective of their daily life. If you're working with a male student, you should have pictures of a male student. If you're working with a black student, you should have pictures of a black student. And that's often overlooked in some of those board maker apps and setups, is the diversity there. And I think it's important to have so that they can see themselves reflected in the story that we're telling them.
So it's important to differentiate the supports based on the student's needs.
Yes.
What are suggestions that you have to set students up to be independent learners and not reliant upon adult support?
I really like the idea of natural consequences in situations where a person has the skill to be able to figure something out. I was working with a student one time on the idea of non-social problem solving. She still needed a lot of help to solve conflict, but to get her backpack unstuck or to reach something that she couldn't reach, or to find something she couldn't find, those non-social problems that have to do with objects rather than people, she needed a lot of help, but she was becoming to an age where that wasn't really appropriate anymore. And so I would tell her, hey, we're gonna work on solving problems. I'm here to give encouragement and I can provide you some help with my words, but I cannot do it for you. And giving her a task that I knew probably she couldn't do. There was one time she was trying to figure out how to get a bin unstuck from another bin, and she, can you help me, can you help me? And I said, I can help you with my words, I can give you instructions, but I cannot do it for you. And letting her kind of find out through those natural consequences and trying different things was really, really useful.
All right, we're gonna have this as our last question. So this question is about working with families, and how do you navigate a situation where maybe school staff have a different idea of the needs of a student compared to what parents identify as needs? And how would you go about advocating or supporting, putting supports in place across all environments when maybe families aren't on board?
That's the ever-present problem, isn't it? That's a pretty big problem, and it's a pretty pervasive one at that. I don't know that I've got a quick fix for that necessarily. Yeah, that's a tricky one, and it's one that we probably all deal with in some form or fashion.
Would you recommend maybe finding success in some of the strategies that are effective in whatever environment and making sure that those strategies are shared across all team members so that everyone can see the success?
Yeah, I would think that's a pretty easy solution.
Yeah. All right. Well, we thank you for all of your questions. It is about time to break for our next 30-minute exhibit hall break time. So you get to go back out, visit all of the different exhibitors. Thank you very much, Kaelynn, for sharing your story and so many great strategies.
Thank you.